This is a specially edited version of an interview done with the Reverend Lenore Parker, an elder of the Yaegl people and priest in the Anglican Diocese of Grafton. This edited version of the interview has been produced for NAIDOC Week.
G'day. My name is Lenore Parker. I'm an Yaegl Aboriginal lady from Maclean. I tell this story about my mother when she brought me home from hospital, from the Maclean hospital over to the island, Allagundi Island, and she said, "Now, Pet, when I brought you home here, your first cradle was the top of a chest of drawers, and your first home was a little tin hut. My first church was our home, the family home. And so sitting on the dirt floor in this little tin shack with, potato bags for window curtains and little those sheets of tin as the door. So, but every night, sitting on the dirt floor with Mum and Dad, and so we'd sit there kneeling and saying this beautiful prayer, that gentle Jesus. Do you know that one?
Yes, I had to say that one when I was little, at bedtime.
Gentle Jesus. And so that was, the love that I was surrounded by, firstly with my parents, but then with the rest of the family around us. Our grandparents and our aunts and our uncles were there and our cousins. But I had no idea that what our parents were going through, because they were the ones who were more like they were placed over, they weren't allowed to go where they wanted. Yeah. They had to go where they were placed.
Your parents protected you from the pain that they were going through, and just allowed you to have this beautiful childhood.
Beautiful place, and and it was like we had no idea that about the welfare board and things like that, the Aborigines Welfare Board, and once a month I think that they'd come over because the manager would come and he'd bring some doctors or nurses over there. But I didn't know the underlying issues with this. They would walk into every home and they would run their fingers looking at the beds, the kitchen, the bedrooms and that, and they'd walk in and they'd see if there was any clean blankets, any clean sheets. And so you could imagine like how our parents and grandparents would have felt. They weren't treated with respect and any dignity, and that would have been for a lot of Aboriginal people right around New South Wales, I'm sure. And the manager on the island, he was also the teacher. And if the kids didn't, like Mum and them, didn't go to church on the Sunday school, when came Monday, they'd get us the stick for not turning up to church. So if we're talking about a church where God is love, it certainly was not there. And I believe that has a lot to do now with why, a lot of Aboriginal people don't go to church, because they saw how their parents and grandparents were taught. So I think there's a lot of things I know there has a lot of things that has not been told that really do need to be more, told, so that the people's stories can get out and just show the rest of the community just how we were treated.
Reverend Lenore now shares how she first encountered Aboriginal spirituality, something that she and her people had not been permitted to practice, and how this transformed her Christian faith.
In 1988, when that was when the bicentenary year was on, and so they had this tribe coming from Cairns, the Jippukai Jupakai people. They came down, this tribe, and they were invited down here to our local community to do some things with us here. And firstly, they did their welcome dance here, and that was good. And then they started telling or showing some of the things, because we never had that. I never grew up knowing about that, like the traditional dancing and things like that, because that wasn't allowed on our island, so everything like that was taken away. But up here in 1988, it was when they did the farewell dance, and they said, now we're going to do the farewell dance. We're going to sweep clean. If we brought anything into your community, we say sorry. We ask you to forgive us. And so now we're going to do this dance to take away any unclean spirits that we may have, brought here. And then it was when they said that, that's when I felt the spirit within me, the warmth in my heart. And so I knew something then had happened. And because, as I said, I didn't know the Aboriginal way of worshipping, and so it was this, when I'd heard that and felt that, and when they went out dancing, and it was so powerful. Year 1994, Bishop Arthur Malcolm took us out to Nungalinya College for praise and worship one Saturday evening. He took us out there and we had this great time of singing and dancing. The didgeridoo was playing and the clapsticks and the didgeridoo. That was when I saw the scriptures were danced into the church, being played by the didgeridoo and the clapsticks. And I saw that for the first time. I felt good, we all felt good and proud. And then when the bishop, he welcomed us up there to the cathedral, and then it was when they opened the prayer book, that the God that I had heard, the voice of the God that I had heard from my traditional people, it wasn't in the church. It was out in out of the church, out in the lawns and at Nungalinya College. It was out there. And so when they opened it, the spirit within me just groaned.
In the early 1990s, Reverend Lenore was invited to be part of the group which was developing a new Anglican prayer book. This is the prayer book we still use today, a prayer book for Australia. Here, Lenore shares part of the story of how she came to write the prayer, A Thanksgiving for Australia, which is part of that prayer book.
I think there were conversations going on in the Anglican Church, whether it was at General Synod level, where they were looking at how do we bring the Aboriginal people, the Aboriginal voice, the Indigenous voice, into the Anglican Church. And so then it was Robert Draffin, who was our Aboriginal Affairs Officer, and he said, I want to invite you to come and have a cup of tea or coffee at the cafe, because they're looking to get this group of Aboriginal Christians together to go down to Sydney. And I said, Robert, I've only been a Christian about 3 years. And he said, Lenore, he said, Jesus taught his disciples for 3 years and then he sent them out. And so that's when I went down there to become a member of this NATSIAC body, the National Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Anglican Council. At that time, it was the printing of a new prayer book for Australia. So I started to tell my story about what I'd witnessed in Darwin and the voice that I'd heard of my people telling their story about their God, their daddy God, this God of the ancient dream time. And then when we had the reporting back of the meeting that we'd been formed as a group, And when we came back, Peter Burke, he read the words. And I said, Peter, that was beautiful. Those words were beautiful. Then he said, Lenore, they were your words. So I didn't write the prayer. I spoke the prayer. The Spirit spoke. Yeah, I always say that was when my tongue became the pen to write the story.
So that's how we came to have that amazing
God of Holy Dreaming prayer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder, would you do me the huge privilege of praying the prayer?
Yes, I certainly will.
Thank you.
Yeah. God of holy dreaming, great Creator Spirit, from the dawn of creation, you have given your children the good things of Mother Earth. You spoke and the gum tree grew. In the vast desert and dense forest, and in cities at the water's edge, creation sings your praise. Your presence endures as the rock at the heart of our land. When Jesus hung on the tree, you heard the cries of all your people and became one with your wounded ones, the convicts, the hunted, and the dispossessed. The sunrise of your Son coloured the earth anew and bathed it in glorious hope. In Jesus, we have been reconciled to you, to each other, and to your whole creation. Lead us on, Great Spirit, and gather us from the four corners of the earth. Enable us to walk together in trust from the hurt and shame of the past into the full day which has dawned in Jesus Christ. Amen. So lead us on, Great Spirit, as we gather from the four corners of the earth. Enable us to walk together in trust from the hurt and shame of the past into the new day which has dawned in Jesus Christ. Amen. Amen.